Hello, this is going to be a really fun toe reading. I've already had some great experiences in pre-drawing a card for you, and that goes along really well with your chart. So we'll talk about that in just a few minutes when we get to your star chart over here. For right now, let's have a look at these toes. And when I do these toe readings, the first thing that I do is I look to see what is the first message that I'm getting from your toes. Energetic release. I love that already. Okay, so the first thing that I see in your toes are these communication toes. The way that they turn a little bit and the blocked energy in the top of these toes. So I'm going to talk more about that in just a few minutes, and it's going to make more sense. I want to just make sure that you understand that the right foot is the way that we are experienced by others. It's the way we show up in the world. It's the way we interact with and respond to things outside of ourselves. And our left foot is our internal. It's our relationship with self and our connection with source. And then each one of the toes has a specific meaning. So the big toe on the left foot is your spirit path, and on your right toe is your life path. Second toes are expression and communication. Third toes are action. Fourth toes are relationship. And fifth toes are trust and prosperity. And so when I look at this left foot, and we're going to talk about these toes first. So this communication, and if you look, both of them have a similar shape to them. This one's got additional blocked energy in here. I'm wondering if you've ever broken this toe before. Throughout your life, you have likely not felt free to express yourself as fully as you would want to, or feel like there's secrets or aspects of yourself that you must keep hidden. And this is showing up here. So this isn't new. This has been going on for a long time. Likely as a teenager, there were lots of secrets and parts of you that you really felt that if you expressed, you would experience rejection and other things that people fear. People have two opposing but basic fears. One fear is not being unique. So every human wants to be unique. They want to be special. So we fear not being unique, and we fear being rejected. And so we'll do what it takes to fit in so we don't get rejected. So you can see how those two fears contradict each other. But what we want to do is be ourselves, be able to fully express ourselves, and feel comfortable that we will not be rejected, that we're going to be able to maintain our relationships, especially our close relationships. And this makes a lot of sense because we do want to be unique. That's an inherent human desire. And yet, 5,000 years ago, gosh, even, a few hundred years ago, if you weren't part of the collective, if you weren't part of the group, it was a death sentence most of the time because humans relied on other humans in close proximity for survival. So, keeping secrets, not communicating and expressing in the way that you wanted to, because you feared either being too unique or you feared being rejected. So, when we look at your star chart over here, your part of fortune is over here in Aquarius, and it's in your first house. Uniqueness is part of your blueprint. It is part of what you came into this lifetime to embrace, is your own uniqueness. And indeed, your own uniqueness is what will bring you fortune. Your radical ideas that some people just don't get, that's actually how fortune is going to come to you. Your part of fortune is right here in your first house, right here, very, very close to your Capricorn rising sign. It's just at 0 degrees, 25 minutes Aquarius. And so just moving into Aquarius, you're part of fortune. And so using this rising sign, which I'm going to talk more about when I get to this, this specific part, but your rising sign is kind of like this right foot. It's how people experience you. It's how you show up, and how it's like the first layer in your presentation and how you move through the world. And then just scooting past that is having your part of fortune in Aquarius. So remember, your uniqueness, your ideas, these things that might feel scary and shameful to you are actually part of what you're here to do in this lifetime, and will indeed bring you fortune. This has continued in all ways. If we look here at the kind of bulbous nature of this top part of your toe, it's even covering part of your action toe. There's a lot of blocked energy in there. You still want to express and want to communicate, and there's things that you don't feel like you can. And so the invitation, the message from your toes is to identify, what do you want to communicate and express in the world, so out there in the way that you're moving through the world, and to yourself. Being honest with yourself is what these toes, and this was the first message that I got, especially this toe, is what you are being asked to do by your toes. Your toes are showing you this, and people that don't express, who don't communicate, end up in a position of resentment eventually in their life. If you haven't hit that already, you will, because you feel resentful that you cannot fully express your soul in this lifetime. I also recommend taking these toes and gently massaging them, and even taking, I'm going on your right foot here, pushing in on this part right here with one of your fingers, and then pushing out or pushing towards the center on that other side. Just inviting that toe to try out a different energetic pattern where we're going to make it have more straightness to it. So straightening out that toe and doing it on both sides. And then that center part of this toe, just massaging that, releasing that, journaling about the things that you're the most shameful about. In your chart, you have all of this Scorpio energy, and it's in the 9th house. This is a very interesting combination. You have your Sun, Pluto, Moon, Mercury, and Saturn, all in the 9th house, and all in the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is an often misunderstood sign. Thus, you may not have felt comfortable expressing yourself. Scorpio definitely has a dark side. Scorpio is the deep, deep, deep waters. You have a lot of water in your fixed water is the signature of your chart. And fixed water is water that is deep and still, like a deep, deep lake, or deep down in the ocean where things are more still. You are a deep person. You are a person who desires to get in and get in deep. You likely have no desire for relationships that are just surface level, where you're just, talking about the weather. You want to get in deep. Scorpio's deepest fear is shame. And so this toe is actually inviting you to look at places where you have felt shame. And this could be shame about anything, shame about yourself, shame about your family, shame about your body, shame, shame, shame. Shame about your thoughts, shame about your relationships. So really think about, what does this look like to you, and journal about it. Massage this part of your toe and ask it what secrets it's keeping. What are the blocks there? What are the things that are ready to be released from this toe? I've talked a lot about this left toe here. Your right toe is the same way. The way that it presents is just a little bit different. Perhaps you tolerate talking about the weather kind of relationships when you really have absolutely no interest in that whatsoever, because you want deep relationships. So what relationships or what situations do you feel uncomfortable expressing yourself in? And some of them are very close. You have some close relationships where you do not feel comfortable expressing yourself. So here's the card that I drew for you before this reading. So this comes from the Light Seers Tarot deck, and I really, really love this one. The Magician, Mastery. So when I first saw your chart, mastery was the word that just came to me. Mastery, because the ninth house is a house of philosophy and a house of exploration and other things. And then with this deep Scorpio energy that's in this ninth house, this is about mastery. And with your sun and Pluto and Mercury and Saturn and your moon all here together, mastery. You have the ability to master things. And the way that you express that mastery may go over people's heads. It may go over people's heads. I'd like to read from this book, and in the description of this video, I will share more about this deck. But so the Magician card, the light side is skill, natural talents, powers of manifestation, creativity, and resourcefulness. The shadow side is unused potential, which is something that I really see a lot of in those toes, especially the three middle toes. Unused potential, latent talents, questionable intentions, manipulation, selfishness, unfocused, or blocked creative energy. And we're going to talk more about that blocked creative energy when we get to your action toes. The Magician brings forth a message of creation and potential. You are magic. You have everything you need to succeed. Badass manifesting energy from the cosmos. All the skills you require, they're at your fingertips. Beautiful creator, go create. Activate the magic in your veins by focusing your energy, willpower, desire, and actions. When you consciously step into your personal power and decide to shape the material world in this way, every breath in and every breath out is an opportunity to carve new meanings and new perspectives into reality. If you are unsure of your ability to create the life you desire, trust in the latent potential that resides within you. Feeling less than inspired at this time reminds you it's time to find your muse, find your spark, find your why. With everything you need sitting in front of you like a giant universal cauldron, what is it that you desire to bring to life? And what can you do today that will bring you one step closer to reality? And the mantra is, I can manifest the life I desire through energy and action. Scorpio is a magical sign. A witch or a sorcerer is one of the archetypes of Scorpio. You have all of this Scorpio energy. And so in that space, being a witch or a sorcerer, even in fantasy, like in the Harry Potter novels, right? There's training and mastery that is required to harness all of that power. You have that within you. So what magic do you want to create? What magic do you want to bring into reality? What do you want to manifest? And so when we look at these toes, this open space here between the toes, this one, we'll talk about this life path in just a minute, is the leadership toe. And this is the channel of intuition right here coming down through. So let's talk about this life path toe. This life path toe, you can see that it is pointing towards the little toe. This one is more. You can see that this is more in the nail and here at the top. And this has been going on for a long time. Time tracks in the toes from down here is earlier on in life, even generationally. And as it moves out, it's more frequent, more recent. And so when we talked about this toe, these toes here, and the blocked energy that you've got, this is in this last third of your life, this most recent third of your life. This is teenagers. This is about the halfway point in your life to right now. This bump and the blocked energy that we have here. And so when we look at your toes, your spirit path toe, you're going along. So what has happened recently, and based on your age, you've got some stuff going on based on your chart. We've had a ton of Scorpio energy going on right now. The sun continues to be in Scorpio. It'll be changing to Sagittarius at the time of this recording. 1 week from yesterday, it'll be changing into Sagittarius. But you've had the sun here. Then we've had the eclipse season since last January, and it will continue through next year between the Scorpio and Taurus axis. And so you've had so much of this energy activated right here. In the meantime, Pluto, which is in its home sign of Scorpio in your chart, has been going right over your rising sign right here. Pluto is the great transformer and the great distiller. So my guess is that over the last few years, and I would say especially in 2022, you have had a ton of transformation stuff happening in your life. Now, when I say transformation stuff, that could just look like a whole bunch of shizzle in your life that is making you rethink and question everything. And it can be actual crisis with yourself, crisis with your family. Now, the good news is you've got what it takes with the action, but to move through this with grace and ease. And hopefully this reading is helpful for you in that. Planetarily, things are going to be moving, but you're going to have Aquarius. You're part of Fortune in Aquarius. Pluto's going to move over that, which is going to create a distillation, if you will. When you think about when things are distilled, everything is taken out so that you have the purest form of that. So wherever Pluto is, and Pluto right here, right next to your sun, part of your purpose in this life is to get rid of the impurities, if you will. When you think about distilling water, everything except for hydrogen and oxygen molecules, the H2O is distilled out, and what you're left with is the pure water. That's going to be your whole life. Okay. Your whole life is going to have to do with the people with whom you cannot express yourself, or the people with whom you have a shallow relationship. Really deciding, are these people that you need in your space, that you want in your space? Are these people that are taking your energy, or that you are giving your energy to, that it's not really serving you? And if it's not serving you, it's not serving them. Okay. It just doesn't work for you. It's not rejection. It just doesn't work for you. So you've got a lot of fun things coming up, and You are likely in for at least another year. 2023 will continue to be a year of refinement for you. When we even talk about refining, what is it? It's taking out the impurities and hardening up the metal when we refine silver, for example. Okay, so your spirit path. This all ties together. Your spirit path here. What's been going on in the last third of your life that is not in alignment with your spirit path? Scorpio and the ninth house are very, very spiritual, very intuitive. What's blocking your intuition? What situations, people, behaviors, and beliefs are keeping you from trusting your intuition? Trust is a key word of Scorpio. We'll talk more about trust when we get over here to your trust and prosperity toes. But those are some questions for you to ask yourself. Now, your life path. Your life path, whatever you're doing in your career or how you're spending most of your time and energy, your toes are inviting you to relook at that. And really evaluate, is this feeding your soul or is this sucking your soul? That's what this life path toe is really saying. It's blocking. There's things in your life path that are blocking your intuition. When you look at the difference between these two spaces here, this one, much more open. However, if you continue on the spirit path that you are on right now, you can see that this is tracking over this way. So just really evaluating what that is, and even with some manual manipulation like we talked about with this toe, and just gently straightening out that toe, inviting the energy to run in a different pattern through that toe. And I would really do it for this, and even coming down. So massaging from the top of your toe down, so that and then pushing the other part of your toe in so that you're straightening it out and inviting the energy to move in a different direction in this toe. You've got this straightness here on the inside nail. This is an opportunity for you to really journal and decide what's working for you and what's not. And do that freely. Don't judge yourself on what's not working for you because you think that it should be working for you, or somebody told you it should work for you, or it's a choice that you've made, so you better make it work. Just write it down. And what's not working for you or what is working for you, just don't judge it. What's working and what's not. And then you can evaluate it more. If this toe was straighter, if you were more aligned with your life path and life purpose, your intuition would really just like whoosh, open up. You're also coming into the time of your life where you've got some stuff going on with some important astrological transits. They call it the midlife crisis, and it can feel like a crisis. It's really mostly a crisis to people who you are changing the dance with. You're going to be changing the dance with some people in your life, and it's going to be happening sooner rather than later. So I just invite you to work with the energy of your toes and the energy of the stars so that you can move through this with grace and ease, instead of exploding and causing some collateral damage. You are a magician. So you've got this. Okay. Your action toes. That's your third toes here. Okay. Your action toes are actually being covered up by your communication toes. Communication and expression are super, super, super important to you. And, as such, that's kind of the way that you lead, is with the communication and the expression. However, because you've got blocked energy going on here, it's actually covering up some of your actions. So some of your action is not aligned, but if you actually look at your action toes, they are straight. The nail is straight. Like, you are an absolute action taker, and you have the intuition to know what actions to take. So it's really just this communication toe that's getting in the way. So this is an opportunity, an invitation from your toes to ask, what is the action that I'm not taking because I am afraid of the way that that will express, or because I don't know how to communicate it, or maybe because you're not sure how to even communicate it to yourself. Journaling is going to be very important. You need some alone time so that you can really sit with this, because you're ready to take action. And when we look over here at your chart, your Mars and your Jupiter are here in Capricorn. The key word for Capricorn is I achieve. Okay. And then you've got Jupiter here that makes everything bigger. Jupiter is the joy bringer. Jupiter makes everything bigger. And it's sitting right here by your Mars in your 12th house, which is about transcendence. So there is action that you get to take in this lifetime that will transcend you. And the great thing is as we do this work for ourselves, it goes back generations and heals it, and goes forward generations and heals it. And so this will help clear your generational stuff from your children so that they only have to deal with their stuff. What a blessing for your children to not have to deal with, our baggage. They can deal with their baggage. So it's time for you to take action, right? What was the mantra for the magician here? I can manifest the life I desire through energy and action. That's what your third toes want you to do. Take action. It's time to take action. We can explore more when we have our one-on-one what that action might look like. And doing the manual manipulation and asking questions of these toes will really help you. Your relationship toes, okay? Your relationship toes, you can see that they're a little bent in towards action. I'd be curious to know what your love language is, and if you are able to communicate your love language to those around you so that you receive love in the way that you want to receive love, and that you give love in a way that feels good to you and feels good to the recipients of your love. There is some blocked energy in your fourth relationship toes, blocked energy in your relationship with yourself, blocked energy in your relationship with others. These last two toes, your relationship toes and your prosperity trust toes, these are the most karmic toes and generational toes. We bring a lot of stuff in with us from past lives, if you believe in that, or whatever we were doing before we came into this life, as well as what we bring in our DNA energetically and physically into this life. Really massage these toes. When we look at where your Venus is over here in the 10th house of Sagittarius. Your 10th house is kind of your fame and reputation house. And relationships are very, very important. It actually has a lot to do with what we talked about already with these communication toes, relationships. And you need to be free. Sagittarius requires freedom. 10th house is, the way that you are experienced by people out here. This is very important in your Venus, which is the planet of relationships. Venus is the ruler of these toes. So where do you feel constricted in your relationships? This has a lot to do with these communication toes, which I have gone on at length about. But there are relationships where you do not feel comfortable exploring yourself, let alone exploring things out there. What are those relationships? How are they showing up for you? How are you showing up in them? And what relationships I see energetically like pruning trees. In my yard, I have a lot of fruit trees. And I love my fruit trees. And I really dislike thinning the fruit off. So when you have the fruit trees, I'm thinking about like my peach tree. And I might have two peaches that are growing from the same little spot on the tree. And neither of them can grow very well because they're so close and tight together. So if I don't thin it, what I'm going to end up with is two inferior pieces of fruit. But I go out there and I got some FOMO. What if I pick the wrong one off? And, the fruit that I pick off is the one that would have grown into this great piece of, this great peach. And the one that I leave ends up not working out. Or I feel like I'm, killing the fruit. And yet the thinning is necessary for the good of the fruit, for the good of the tree. There's some thinning that you need to do. Thinning, pruning, whatever kind of energetic word works for you. But I really see that in your relationships, that some thinning is going to be required, and that can feel painful. And so the words that I would encourage you to use is it just doesn't work for me. There are relationships that just don't work for you. You're not bad. They're not bad. You're just not helping each other. And at the end of the day, and make sure that you don't get caught in the trap of being the savior, of being the one that needs to take care of this relationship, because if you're not in this relationship, they're going to do something bad. Let people have sovereignty and responsibility for themselves. You require sovereignty. You will never work well in a codependent relationship. Okay? These toes, I love how these toes are, they're really nice and straight. They're leaning into the action, but they're not being hidden necessarily by the action toe. A little bit, because all of these toes really point, but really it's just pointing to this action. What's the action that it's time for you to take, right? You've got, your two toes are on that action toe, really bending in and saying, hey, it's time to take some action. So this relationship is really, really important for you. And then your trust and prosperity toes. Your trust and prosperity toes you've got some blocked energy in those. That is super, super common. And for Scorpio people, especially somebody with as much Scorpio energy as you have, trust is important. Most importantly, trust in yourself and trust in your higher power, source, the universe. Those are important things for you. Trusting your intuition. You have phenomenal instincts. Trust that. We have been gaslighted in our culture and in our society, and as women, to not trust ourselves. You have everything it takes to absolutely trust yourself and trust your intuition. So when we even look at these toes, while you might have some trust issues with people outside of you, they really stem from trust issues inside yourself and not trusting yourself in the way that not trusting yourself to make the choices, to say the things, to stand up for yourself. That's where your trust issues lie. And I know that there's more, but it is up to you to identify those things. These toes, especially this left toe, could use some massage. Just generally speaking for you, a little bit of massage on all of your toes, especially, those specific massage moves where we're moving the energy into a straighter alignment within your toes. An Epsom salt bath could be very, very good for you. You have a hot Epsom salt water bath and standing on the earth, just barefoot. And I know it's getting cold now, but as much as you can, just stand on the earth and ground. When we do a grounding exercise, a lot of time it comes through our root chakra and down but I'm going to encourage you to ground through your root chakra, down through your legs, down through your feet, all the way into your toes. And specifically these toes, these are your earth toes, and we want them to be grounded. Okay. For now, that's all the messages that I'm getting from your toes. I invite you to write down your questions that you have and start journaling on this sooner rather than later. Let's talk about just a couple of other things in your chart, especially as they relate to the toes. So a couple of things here. One is you have nothing over here in Cancer, the sign of Cancer, except for 2 house cusps. You have your 6th and your 7th house cusps going into Cancer. So your 6th house is about wholeness. It's about wellness. And the shadow side of that can be perfection. Your 7th house cusp is about partnership. It's about close partnership. And they're both in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is another water sign, just like Scorpio. It is the cardinal water sign. And Cancer is about creating safe space. It is about community. It is about family. And when we look at Cancer, the sign is the crab. Well, first of all, shadow side of Cancer is enabling family traps, enabling family generally, continuing patterns that really don't work. That's shadow side of Cancer, specifically as it relates to close community. That's the shadow side of Cancer. The light side of Cancer is about creating safe space for people. Now, if we look at the crab that is Cancer, crabs move sideways across the sand. They want to avoid conflict. Crabs don't want to have conflict. They just want to live their life, right? They just want scoot along. But what happens if you get in their face, if you just won't leave them alone? They've got those pincers. And this has to do with the pruning analogy, right? There are people that are literally in your space that it is time for you to stop enabling and for you to take them out of your space, right? They get to go live their life and do their thing. Enabling is shadow side of Cancer, especially when it comes to partnerships. And this is an important part of your chart because you have your 7th house cusp, your descendant going into Cancer. And so where do you need to prune? Where do you need to prune? And the great thing is unlike a Cancer crab who will, or just a crab who will pinch and it'll hurt, or pruning, or I'm actually throwing away that other fruit, or thinning, it's different when we're doing it with people, because it might hurt a little bit, just like that pinch of the crab for both of you. And yet there's really a setting free of that, right? When you cut that tie, it sets you free. I'm going to invite you to just do a meditation where you close your eyes and just look at your body and just observe where you have cords or other bits of debris. Sometimes I see things sometimes as hooks or spikes or cords or thorns. Just whatever it shows up like to you is fine. And those are things that need to be distilled. Okay, thank you, Pluto. Distilled out. Because your 8th house cusp goes right here into Virgo. Virgo, the 8th house is about transformation, and Virgo is about wholeness. And so distilling those things out that that aren't your stuff. It's not your stuff. And then following those cords and seeing where they attach to other people. There are practitioners, and I can certainly refer you to some if this is of interest to you, that specialize in removing those kinds of things. But I invite you to just meditate on, where are these things in your energetic body that aren't yours and that are connected to things that don't work for you. Your dark moon Lilith here in Aries. Sometimes in relationships, especially relationships with romantic partners, you can be kind of fiery, and that can cause some damage. So just be aware of that. And that might even be what you're afraid of or have some guilt and shame around. Okay, that's what I have for you. I can't wait until we can chat tomorrow about this, and I can't wait to answer all of your questions. I hope that you found this to be enlightening and helpful, because that is my purpose, is to empower myself and others to live your most whole life. So we'll talk to you tomorrow.